a signal. It's my honor and privilege on behalf of the Youth Cafe to be part of this forum, the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum, subject matter that ourselves as an organization is invested in. I represent the Youth Cafe, which is a youth organization with its regional headquarters here in Kenya. We have big digital footprints, but with on-site projects on a number of other African countries like South Sudan, the DRC, and South Africa. So the Youth Cafe's journey started back in 2012. To date, we work with young men and women in Kenya and across Africa to work with this demographic to foster their community resilience, to propose innovative solutions, to drive social progress with the objective on influencing youth empowerment that can ultimately transform change. Our mission is to enrich and invest in young people's lives by advancing youth-led and right-based approaches that are geared towards enhancing young people's own civic efficacy. We center our work on right-based approaches, gender mainstream programs with the ultimate vision of advancing sustainable development, social equity, and transformative change. We have a number of areas of work, 8 for the purpose of the forum. So this fits within our work on governance and democracy. We also see media as a cross-cutting means with which the Youth Cafe achieves its objectives. But how we make a difference is we are a mobilizing force, so we leverage partnerships with various groups. We are a convener, renowned for convening both national and regional youth forums on important discourses that matter to young people. And one such convening, which I think we'll have a chance to share a bit with you and get some of your perspectives, is on how young people can influence political discourses in their communities and their nations with key moments such as elections. So we have a body of work related to elections where our digital media literacy, or is it digital information literacy work falls under or is domiciled. So for the digital opportunities for a digital generation, this is a very interesting topic. And just by show of hands, how many watch TV every day? TV? Yeah, the TV, television. One, two. How many read newspapers every day? One. Not very different from TV, actually. How many listen to radio every day? One. And the rest, what do you listen to? When you say you listen to nothing, yeah, but if you look at the trajectory of, if you look at media in its historical context, you can go as far as you want, but in the 1950s or 1930s, the predominant platforms were mostly the ancient TV. Then if you look at the trajectory, the radio played a dominant role in the 60s, 70s. The digital media is now almost dominating the conversations that we, as we know them today. So with the advances in the technology, and the media platforms with which people, the communities, engage with the information and interact with important information that affects their lives, we see, if you were to draw a curve, the increase in advances in technology has not necessarily been commensurate with the increase in literacy levels of people in order to be critical beings, for example. That is where our work on digital media and information literacy, digital media and information literacy can be applied in various fields. We've done work before on digital media literacy with respect to sexual and reproductive rights. At the height of COVID, we did work on digital media literacy with respect to what is now commonly known as health information literacy. Right? How do you know that this is quality health information to rely upon, or health platform with the advances of health, mHealth and telemedicine? But right now, we are looking at civic engagement, the quality of political participation, particularly of young people, that can help them navigate the variety of information at their disposal. The sword of digital news, media, from all platforms that are at their disposal, while still being able to make sense out of all this. So we have done extensive research and studies, and perhaps you not be surprised, because this is an audience of very media literate people. But the ability of a young Kenyan aged between 14 to 35 to distinguish between fake news and facts is only 5%. So we used tools, for example, images that depict a homepage of any website. So a fake homepage versus a genuine homepage. And people were not able to distinguish. If you see a poster of announcing the death of a politician, what we saw is politicians surpassed the proverbial lives of the 9 lives of the cat to be able to die multiple times over and over again. So you wake up today and the announcement that is trending is a former politician, or a politician has always in very critical health. When we contrasted these posters and this information and screenshots of the tweets, young people did not have qualms sharing or retweeting or sending the information on WhatsApp without any verification. So this led us to develop a handbook. This is its cover page, and when we were discussing with Kai, it has not been launched yet, but the only thing remaining is actually its launch, and then it's piloting with the Kenyan elections to build the capacities of youngsters to be then able to using interactive formats, for example, like a game. So we're converting it to a game as well that can be played. Since you don't necessarily like to read, I also don't like to read actually. So what led us to do this is, the very important area of work that is centered on quality civic participation. We have seen a lot of distorted narratives that sometimes, especially in contested elections, can border or can easily be a trigger to even violence, particularly in hotly contested elections and similar processes. We've also seen, for example, processes beyond elections, but processes that culminate to the elections, for example, the commissions, the constitutional bodies. A lot of the fake news are also targeted not only at individual politicians or parties, they're also targeted at institutions. For example, key institutions like the Independent Electoral Body. And you know, the nature of the structure is such that the agility might not be readily there to respond to an incorrect information about this institution. So how our toolkit is structured, that it has 4 chapters. It is broken down into key concepts that all deal on digital media and information literacy. There are also teasers, like brain teasers, so we have included exercises that are then played by the participants whom we hope to build their capacities. So in some chapters, there are exercises, in others, there are games or jokes and interesting facts. So what is the state of play with respect to digital media literacy as it affects young people in Kenya? It is also meant for use in other African contexts. Actually, I see the participants from Tunisia, from Nigeria, from all parts of, and even its own shared development benefited from a very cross-sectional, experts on media from across the region, from Mauritius, from Nigeria. These are professors and academics, and IT companies as well, who reviewed for alignment with their own community guidelines, because platforms like Facebook and Google have community platforms. We tried to integrate all this evidence and other secondary sources based on what has been done before, with the view of enhancing quality participation, particularly in the Kenyan elections, since this is where we are piloting for the first time. And I have to say, it is also the first time that a digital handbook for media literacy has been piloted anywhere in Africa regarding elections. So I'll give you a brief overview of how it is broken down. So, for example, chapter 1 has reflections. They have demystifying key concepts, going, as it were, down the journey down the memory lane regarding, as it concerns, how have we ended up here and what can be done, particularly by consumers. You know, there's the supply side and the demand side. Both, particularly the audiences that we work with are affected both as producers of misinformation and also consumers, both inadvertently or wittingly. So we have included case studies, and it would be interesting to also learn from some of the case studies that, like you yourselves, are working with in various countries or communities, and so such that we correlate the lived experience in one region with a completely different lived experience in another region, such that we can learn lessons and lead to a pathway of sharing best practices. And at this point, it would be great to hear from, I mean, some of your countries I know are really invested and are very interesting media literacy programs for youth. I want to ask, have you in your course of work come across, for example, instances where digital media play a key role in, let's say, a campaign? We had of Fees Must Fall. We've heard of the Bring Back Our Girls from Nigeria. We've heard of the recent one in Uganda. But in your community, do you recall any instance where digital media played a very key role in an activity or a campaign that galvanized, many people towards achieving change? If yes, I would want to hear what was it, what was the hash, if there were hashtags, what did it do, how many people were involved, any relevant information. Yes. You need a microphone? I think we have 2 microphones.
Okay, definitely after lunch, people don't want to talk much. You want to sleep. Okay. I will just mention a program that we did within my community. That is within Viga County. We were targeting youth in art and music and performed creative and fine arts. And the event was called the Viga Youth Extravaganza, which we've done for 2 consecutive years. So what we really wanted to achieve was to bring together young people and ask them to take part in artistic creation and the dissemination of artistic work that addresses a theme. So like for this year, we were saying that the youth should use artistic expression to promote national cohesion and sustainable development. And we engaged around 500 youths, and they took part in activities. Then we also went ahead and had the social media campaign. The hashtag was Viga Youth Extravaganza.
Okay, great. That is very inspiring. And the use of creative formats such as performing arts, cannot be gainsaid in terms of reaching out to youth with this new education. Any other example from a different country? That is Kenya, Vihiga, right? Vihiga is in Kenya, not Uganda, right? There's
there is one particular hashtag that at least made a lot of noise in Tunisia. It's called Anazeda, which means in Arabic, Me Too. So it's the version of Me Too, the campaign, the international campaign. But in Tunisia, it was not only about sharing horror stories when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence in general, but it also served to denounce how we speak about those things, how we speak about incidents. For instance, last year, unfortunately, one woman was murdered by her husband, etc., in a rural area in Tunisia. And through that group that was created through the hashtag, it made some noise on the use of language by media websites. So, for instance, you don't say the death of just the name of this woman. You say the murder of her because she was murdered. She was not just, naturally dead. It's more about how we speak about those languages. Anyway, and one thing about this hashtag is it started organically. So even though there is support from organizations, etc., it still was organically started and organically organized as well.
Thank you so much. That is a very great example indeed. Do we have any, the last country? Yes. Let's give the mic to her.
So there have been a lot of hashtags and movements that have inspired change, sort of, in Nigeria of recent. My colleague Kenneth just reminded me of a particular hashtag from just about 2 weeks ago, which was horrible bosses. It's a particularly fun one because young people just kept complaining about toxic work environments and what their bosses are like. And interestingly, I think on that day, my boss sent a WhatsApp message to the group just checking on everybody. So I think it inspired some sort of consciousness in people. So, yeah.
That is really great. It's inspiring indeed to hear these examples. I mean, even in our work, there are certain criticisms that we face in terms of self-interrogation to the extent to which social media can affect change. I've had discussions where social media activists are referred to as keyboard warriors. Or so in terms of the balance between do we need to be keyboard warriors or we also need to show up on the streets? Yes.
I think one leads to the other. I think one leads to the other. You need to start somewhere. And starting with the keyboard has proven to be effective in some instances. And I'll give a very good example for the lawyers who are here. We have been able to start reforms in the Council of Legal Education by starting hashtags like hashtag CLAWE. Yeah, so it's only started on Twitter for it to be able to advance to actual reforms within the profession. So I think one is the other. We cannot underestimate the importance of being a keyboard warrior in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I think here's some.
Thank you. I agree with the previous speaker, but I also think that they work hand in hand. So even though there are some movements that start organically online, it's necessary to be on the streets for the benefit of those that aren't online. But at the same time, being online, so the online movement sustains the offline movement from my recent experience of hashtag movements that we've had. Khadija mentioned NSAS. I think NSAS was sustained for the length of the period it was sustained for because of online movement. We had one recently, Khadija, about the women in the National Assembly. Nigerian women occupy the National Assembly as well. So there were organic offline movements. There was actually a High Court judgment that was as a result of that movement. But I think that even though we start online, it doesn't end when the offline movements start. They have to work in tandem and feed each other.
Thank you so much. You have a comment?
Okay, so to me now, both the online and the physical one are important. For example, us in the anti-FGM board, we usually incorporate like the online one, like tweeting now the hashtag #EndFGM, so that we can attract government regulation. And then we can also go there physically on ground, like reaching out those marginalized communities. You know, now many of them are not learned, so tweeting about #EndFGM, they won't understand. So you have to be there physically and maybe mobilize and tell them the harm and the dangers of it. Thank you.
And the last comment, then we go to the next section. Yeah, please go to it.
I'll talk about something that we did to push out a campaign at some point in Zimbabwe. So we did like an online petition, which was pushed on social media platforms. And because we knew that the government was not really heavily present online, after a certain period of time, we printed the online petition and then had to then go and deliver it as well. And obviously made a report to traditional media that we have done this, but just to show how, I mean, we use both online and offline to kind of push out a campaign, and also how, I just want to emphasize as well how, you know, online platforms make information move swiftly and fast, better than offline. It's like when you take a walk to go and mobilize, it takes a lot more effort than when you're on social media. So just also emphasizing the benefits of digital activism.
Yeah. Digital activism certainly is really, really great. And we really hope, particularly for us, we work with youth. The Youth Cafe is part of the Independent Electoral Commission in Kenya has a coordinating committee, youth coordinating committee on elections. So in November of last year, when the first mass drive was launched, the target was to have 6 million new registered voters. A majority actually are youth, are young, because if you were born in the year 2000, actually, even 2002, right? You know, you have now attained a voting age, 18 eligible to vote. If they were to form a voting demographic in and of themselves, they would, in essence, determine who wins or loses elections. So when we took part in the mass voter registration drive, out of the targeted 6 million new voters, we only achieved 1.5 million, less than like very low percentage. The second mass voter drive was even performed dismally, so I wouldn't mention it. But that is what we see. We've also seen, you know, youth mostly relying on information in emerging digital spaces like TikTok, for example. So they asked if the commission can have a TikTok account or like create a funny video of somebody dancing while registering to vote. That would really motivate many people to register, to understand even the process. And yet the institutional frameworks are not as agile in catching up with these advances. So for the handbook, so these are all the four chapters, and the objectives are simple. We want to have it as a fact-checking platform, such that you know that if this is a poster that says that such a politician has defected to, you know, this party or is now supporting, and you know the political players are also getting very very so sophisticated. In Kenya, actually, most of it is done through voiceover. So you see a video and a voiceover artist, you know, narrate what is happening. So to an ordinary viewer, you wouldn't distinguish the difference. We also see actors, so you see most of the accounts that spread a lot of politically distorted information in Kenya, for example, are not actually based in Kenya. If you look at this, they are not open, they are not accounts open in the country. So there is a level of sophistication that is involved in disseminating misinformation in the current elections. We also want to advocate and implement youth innovations and you know, use this as a basis to inform reviews of policies and emerging policies. We are launching a manifesto for youth next week, and some of the recommendations are targeted at either proposed amendments to existing policies or that regulate the digital space. There's a huge gap, particularly on the leeway that digital companies have, like digital service providers, in terms of not doing as they could be to be held accountable. So, here, anything can happen, anything would go without any strong repercussions. So we think that some of these can be entrenched in policies with clear repercussions to particularly platforms for dissemination. Yeah. So this is the framework of our handbook, and as a last act, I will just show you the structure, how it is structured, and the opportunities that we are looking for in the immediate future, such as using it to build the capacity of youth organizations. So if you are part of youth groups or youth organizations or women groups or any organizations that is interested, it took us 1 year to develop the handbook, so it has rigor. We don't necessarily see it as an academic product, but as a creative tool for youth capacity building regarding their civic engagement. It would also be interesting to see how we can pilot in another country that shares maybe similarities, or that is having elections. How many countries are having elections? Are you having? You already had elections? Is it this year or next year? Are there countries that have elections either this year or next year? Kenya, Angola, and Tunisia, and Libya. Let's go. Okay, that is really great. So to finish, let me show you the structure of the handbook, and then we can engage further. Okay, so this is our handbook. Yeah. Okay, great. So we did this with the support of the youth government, and these are some of it. We've used illustrations and animations as well, so that it is not as boring. We've demystified a lot of context. In each chapter we've had included a case study from an African country actually. So we didn't go outside Africa to find the case studies. There's already very interesting work that is being done in the region. Yeah, we've included games like in chapter 1. I think this is a word search game. And then in each chapter, so this is a different case study based on the topics covered in that chapter. And then this is the game for that chapter. And we also have assignments. So actually, while people interact with the publication, they have assignments that you know, for example, if they answer the question rightly, they get points such that they can be certified, and they get certificates of completion of or of pass certificates. There are also quizzes for example, to refresh people's minds. Then the final section, which is mostly the reference. So this is what we are hoping to do. Regarding youth, digital information and media literacy and Kenyan elections. We hope that this can be piloted in other contexts as well. I am open to one question or comment or two, if we have time. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. And I couldn't help think about this concept of hacktivism. So activism with a H right before the A. Hacktivism. And I know most of us know this hackers group called Anonymous, right? Yeah. And they were like, a year ago, they were associated with hacking into Twitter accounts associated with, they were associated with hacking into a number of government websites that are vital for delivery of key government services in Kenya. And this, they claimed, was in response to the arbitrary arrest of Mutemi Akiyama. I don't know how many of you in Kenya remember that story about Mutemi Akiyama being arrested because of collaboration with Anonymous. So I don't know, within the room and from your perspective, what do you think about hacktivism?
I may not be an expert in hacktivism, but I've heard of ethical. Is it hacking? Yes. Do we have IT experts in the room? I know probably they'll defend this, but I think, I mean, the context also matters. You know, if the only way you can get access to information is through hacking, would you proceed to get that information, whichever means? It's also a question of, you know, what justifies the end? Is it the means justify the end, or the end justifies the means?
Just to follow up on that, because then you actually now start experiencing things that affect national security. Because neither do we know where these so-called anonymous come from, jurisdiction-wise. To what extent have they accessed? Of course, I'm a privacy expert. So to what extent have they accessed data belonging to the Kenyan citizens and all that? And
they, at the click of a button, be able to maybe switch us off, or so such questions arise in these times. Yes, there's an end they are working towards, activism, but then what are the consequential exposures based on this ethical hacking? To what extent do you weigh against this is the limit I can reach when I'm actually hacking into whatever system in order to access information?
I think it also demonstrates the institutional affected their own capacity for digital threats, or to withstand digital threats. And it's an issue of budget. If you ask, I don't know whether the government even budgets for digital protection. Maybe they do, but it is not as emphasized, in particularly resource constrained environments. If you are given an option to budget, to put in the budget, building a hospital or renovating a dilapidated one, then similarly, having protections against the digital environment. It is really competing priorities. It also demonstrates, the sophistication of citizens, that they are able to, hack into systems of institutions, get away with data. It raises data privacy issues because they can do anything with the data that is so far derived from those attempts. My personal view is that I normally think there are means of normally protest, like so there's something wrong, you are protesting through hacking, right? So there's the symbolism aspect of communicating a broader message through an act. Any other question and comment?
Yeah, I was just going to speak to the question you asked earlier about hacking, and in my opinion, I think that situations like this leave it's like a gray area. You can't really say this is bad. You can also say this is good, but it leaves more or less at the mercy of the hackers. Now we are at the mercy of we are trusting the moral judgment of whoever people have come together to classify themselves as activists. Sorry, I'm Yoruba man, so so yeah, we are trusting the moral judgment of the people that have come together to qualify themselves as activists. Because today we say that maybe they are doing something that we can all stand by and say, yes, we need to see those records. Why is the government hiding records like this from us? But then tomorrow, if they turn around to say, okay, we are coming for you now, and we suddenly begin to realize. So I think it's a gray area. But at the end of the day, I would say that in terms of like the extent of in which the law provides or covers, it's not exactly legal. So there are means to protest which the constitution of every country allows. So I think that's where I'll just put it. That if we are going to protest, we should probably. There are reasons why these laws were put into place. Sometimes they've looked into the possibilities of situations like this being exploited. So it would be or we should. At the end of the day, it's a gray area. That's where I'll just close the.
And by the way, what happened to the Kiama case? Was he arrested, or is he now in jail, or?
He was arrested, but for lack of evidence. For lack of evidence, and there was no further prosecution on the matter, and it just went out and fizzled out. Yeah. So, they were trying to associate him with Anonymous. Most of us know that Anonymous and Anonymous. we have never known within what jurisdiction they operate, who the people behind it are, and all that. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm being reminded our time is spent. It was a pleasure to be with you and interact as well as exchange with you. I hope to discuss it further. We have various ways to get involved with the Youth Cafe as an intern, as a volunteer. For those who are open to partnerships too, we can discuss particularly on implementing the manifesto in different contexts. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I know we're all tired. I'm tired too. So I know we're looking at the time. We want to go home. I want to go home too. Well, not home. I mean, I want to go to my room. So this is not another lengthy presentation. It's a very brief one. And it's just one that's, just to briefly speak to paradigm initiatives, tools of engagements. We just want to introduce you to those tools. We not, really go deep into them. I will allow you to, engage them further after now. My name is Adikwe Adigoke, and I work as Senior Program Manager at Paradigm Initiative. As part of our work, we have developed quite a number of tools to kind of strengthen, amplify our work and also to kind of ease some of the things that we do. One of the reasons why we have also done some of those things to be able to scale the kind of work we do. And I'll go into them very, straightforward. I will not dilly-dally a lot so that we can really get out of this place. As I imagine a lot of people already, thinking of the next place they want to be. As what I've done is I've highlighted a few of those tools. I'm not talking about everything. So the ones I want to talk about are in both letters. Like I said, some of the tools are likely to help us, amplify our work. If you look at the first thing I have here, it's called Life Legacy. So Life Legacy, it's new. Let me put it that way because it represents the work that we have done in the 15 years of our existence. When Paradigm Initiative started as an organization that was, building capacity of young people, to use ICT and exposing those young people to opportunities where they can really use those skills for economic advantage. And the program over the years metamorphosed into different forms and all of that. But after running the program for almost 15 years, we thought to ourselves that we've been doing this for so long. We are not government and we don't have the budget of the government. We don't have access to the country resources. So as much as we love to scale this, there is so much that we can do. And one of the ways we can scale it and make this and take this beyond Paradigm Initiative is to give ownership of the of live program to as many organizations are willing and are able to implement the live program. So what we usually do with the live program is that every quarter we train a certain number of young people in different locations across Nigeria. And those young people the young people that we target are really underserved people in underserved areas. So people who typically will not be exposed to computers, people who typically would not have economic advantage. So we would go every 3 months, we take a cohort and we train that cohort. And after graduation, by the time they graduate, they know how to use computer, but not just how to use computer, but also how to use some computer applications, like basic more like graphics, tool, and all of that. Basically, what we do, and just to say that life is an acronym, what it means is that it means the L stand for life, I stand for ICT, F for financial literacy, and E for, what's E for? Okay. Tosin is not in the room to help me. Entrepreneurship, yeah. So the whole idea is to give these young people a 360-degree kind of capacity. So you know how to use the computer. What are you going to use it for? To start scamming people, right? So when you teach somebody how to use the computer, it's also great for you to teach them how they can put it into positive use. And that's what the life skills program was about. But what we have now done is that we've not turned into life legacy program. So for us, it's not a legacy program. We don't just want to be the one implementing it anymore. We want as many organizations that are interested in running those programs to be able to run. So what we have started to do is to go into partnership with as many organizations as possible across Africa who have the same passion, the same goal with us, and we have developed a curriculum. So all you just need to do is to reach out to us. We talk about the details. We share the curriculum with you. We also share the format, everything you need to do with you. And we sign an MOU, and then wherever you are, you can go home the live program with us. So that's it about Life Legacy Program. My colleague Tosin, I don't think Tosin is in the room now, can provide more information for people who want to ask more questions about live program. But as well as any of my colleagues, you can go there and they will be answerable to you for this moment. The next one I want to talk about is called reporting. Reporting, what language is that? Okay, so I hope I pronounced it correctly. Yes. Okay. So reporting is a platform that we created. So it's basically a digital rights foundation reporting platform. I mean, from the word reporting, it means to report, right? Yeah, so the idea is you see a violation, you report it. Or you are even the victim, you report. So the idea is for you to have a safe platform where you can report violations. So you can either report on behalf of yourself or on behalf of someone else. And let me give you an idea of what reporting looks like. If you look at the screen, you will see, so this is what, so if you type www.reporting.africa, this is what it gives you, something like this. And I deliberately highlighted this, make a report. So if you click on make a report, it takes you to this form where you can put the details, what you want to report about, the type of violation, when it occurred, more details, case subject, case description. So the idea is that anybody can report a violation they experience or on behalf of somebody else, in a kind of a safe place. So, but the reporting is more than just reporting a violation. It's also a partnership. So we have quite a number of organizations that have signed on as partner with us on this reporting. So for example, this is just a few of the organizations. You can see it. It's very, the letters are very small, but if you go to reporting.africa, you can view it. So we have a couple of organizations from across the continent who are partnering with us because, again, talking about scalability, we cannot do this by ourselves. So we needed to bring in, a lot of organizations who are helping us in terms of implementing the proposal. And the idea is that all these organizations have different skill sets, right? So if somebody reports a case on reporting, for example, what we do is we look at the case, then we look at which organization is best suited to address this case. And then we contact them to say, somebody has reported this case from this region or from this country. We want you to follow up, want you to support the person. So we're just like the central coordinating, or like the CPU of reporting, if I can use that expression. Then after reporting, then you have IATA. Okay, this one, you apparently don't know what it means. So I'll have to explain to you. So IATA is, somebody said it, he or she does. Who's that person? Oh, really? Yeah. What does it mean? I know it's a Igbo word for it. That's the matter. Okay. Oh, that's all. Oh, okay, it's a Yoruba word. And the funny thing is that even when a Yoruba person sees this, he tries as much as possible to pronounce it like an English word, because he would never be able to imagine that we could use this expression in this context. So I'll tell you what IATA means. So the first thing is that, the first thing about IATA is that we don't even know whether IATA exists. But it is generally believed that there is a charm that makes it possible that if you use the charm and somebody shoots a gun at you, somehow the bullet will just, you'll be able to dodge the bullet somehow, mysteriously. The bullet will not hurt you, or it will not even touch you. Something will just make you dodge. So the idea of IETA is something that allows you to dodge, right, bullets. But IETA does two things, basically, broadly. The first thing IETA does is that I've interacted with a lot of people in this room, and I've heard people say, oh, I got into the space 6 months ago, I got into the space 2 years ago, etc. If you are new in the space, then you should be engaging IETA, because IETA is a platform that literally brings you into the world of digital rights. It has information about actors in the space, basic terms, and also if you go to IETA, you see a lot of reports that Parallel Initiative has produced. But one of the key things about IETA, especially for young organizations, so you want to know how to do digital rights advocacy. How do you do press statement, for example? Maybe there's a violation in your country, you want to issue a press statement, you want to issue a coalition statement. You see a format on IETA that you can use to do that. But also generally on IETA, you see a lot of resources that can bring you up to speed in the space. And also one very important thing that IETA does that is also a digital security toolkit. So on IETA, you find a lot of digital security tools, how to circumvent, how to protect yourself from digital security perspective. The last one that I want to speak about is called Londa. Everybody knows what Londa means. What language is Londa? And now to be clear as everybody, what language? Please. A guard. Okay, Londa means a guard. Any other interpretation of Londa? Okay, Inena wants to help. To depend on something. To defend. Okay. All right. So Londa is our annual research output, which we call digital rights and inclusion report in Africa. So it's an annual publication where we detail, indices around digital inclusion and rights in the continent, country by country. So I know there are some. Did we have digital in Kenya? I can't remember. Yeah, we did. We had in Malawi as well. So the Digital Rights in Africa report is a compendium of country reports of what is happening within the space for different countries in Africa. And we usually report as much as 20 countries, every year, just to, document the experiences, the violations, the positives, the negatives, and just to give a snapshot of what is happening on the continent. It's a very useful tool for everybody working in the space, because you could literally, and that's why I can travel to any country and I pretend as if I'm an expert on that country, because I have access to London. I can always read. In fact, all I need to do is download it on the phone, and while I'm on the plane, I'll read it. And by the time I land, I get into the room, I start speaking like I've been working in that country for years. So that's the amazing thing about London. So please, if you want to be more than a country expert, you want to be, a regional expert, London is your cheat code. Read London. Yeah, and that's like the last tool I want to share with us. Feel free to check any of this platform, www.reporting.africa, IETA.africa, and also, I'm not sure we have the unique URL for London. We do, London.africa. Oh, so you can also check London.africa. And then you'll be able to, engage this platform even better. And as I said, there are quite a number of us in Nairobi today, and you can discuss further with us if you want to understand or engage on any of those platforms beyond just listening to what I had to say. So this is what London looked like, the last report, but the new one is coming up. Okay, today we'll talk about that. But I'll just stop here. Thank you very much for giving me your attention. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Boyer, for that. And I think we are coming to the end of our program. Thank you so much for being great and for being attentive and contributing so greatly. I will now call on Nena to come and give us the closing remarks, and just appreciate everyone in the room. And yeah, and then I think just to chat the way forward for us. Please let's clap hands for her. Let's give her some more support. Thank you.
Thank you, Babekile. And thanks everyone for staying with us all through. I think earlier when I said, I believe I was kicking myself, I was, because the contributions are sort of the takeaways that we've had from today, but it's been a really engaging and thought-provoking session, looking at first from the legal and policy frameworks in Kenya, comparing that to other African countries. Okay, maybe I'll just ask, cross-section of us. Has anybody attended any other DRIF session apart from Kenya's today? Yeah, okay. Okay, it's two. Excluding painting members, that's two. Okay, at least it's better than zero. My question would be, have you maybe gained new perspectives or a different perspective, or learned something new in any of those sessions today and the ones we've attended before? You have. So that's very great. We would like to hear from you, so maybe you can include those in the evaluation form as you complete them. So yeah, the discussions were really thought-provoking. I think two of the most recent conversation points in the second and third session about activism vis-a-vis data privacy. I think that's such an interesting discussion. The question of if we should have standalone digital rights legislation, just hearing perspectives on that as well, and also delving into perspectives from different African regions on digital inclusion. I think all those underscore the importance of us not just having these conversations within our circles, but also taking this conversation out of our circles, out of our silos, out of our echo chambers, like we said earlier, and engaging the affected communities and populations. And I think that the way forward is for us to just continue to increase collaboration so that we advance digital inclusion, not just in Kenya, but across Africa at all levels. So thanks again for being with us. This would have been the last DRIF session for 2022, but due to elections, like we've been discussing, happening in Somalia, the Somalia session is happening a little later. So we still have one DRIF session to go, but it has been great going through all the countries, listening to the conversations and really learning the, contextual realities of these issues in the different countries. Thank you so much for being with us, for contributing. I would like to extend special gratitude to the speakers today. Willis, Yosser, Tosin is not here, Victor, I'm sorry if I missed out your name, but we're really, really grateful. Thank you for your insights. And thank you to the Pin team also for putting this together and joining hands to make it a success, not just today, but working in partnership with all our country hosts and partners since the middle of April up until now. So many thanks to everyone. Like Boye said, I'm sure some of us, our minds are already going out of the room, so I won't keep you much longer. Thank you for being with us. Asante Sana, and we look forward to seeing you next year, DRIF Kenya, and hopefully continuing the conversation afterwards, even before then. Thank you very much, and goodbye.